Good morning, everyone. The Delaware County Commissioner meeting for March 8th, 2018 is now in session. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To my right, I'd like to introduce our Vice President, Commissioner Lewis. To my left is Commissioner Benton, a fellow commissioner, Sarah DeNova, and we don't have an administrator representative this morning, do we? No. So with that, let's begin.
Resolution number 18-228, in the matter of approving the electronic record of the proceedings from regular meeting held March 5th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-228. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
We have no public or elected comment this morning.
I would like to make a note. We do have a hearing scheduled for 10, so it will not occur before 10, and we'll do it at the end of our agenda today. So, okay, go ahead.
Resolution number 18-229, in the matter of approving purchase orders, then and now certificates and payments of warrants in batch number CMA PR 0307.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-229. Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-230, in the matter of approving travel expense requests. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-230. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-231, in the matter of approving a ditch maintenance petition and the ditch maintenance assessments for Liberty Bluff sections 1 and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-231. Sorry. Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-232, in the matter of amending the child placement services contract between the Delaware County Department of Job and Family Services, the Delaware County Board of Commissioners, and provider Mohican Youth Academy. So move.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Stephen Sikora with Job and Family Services. I'm filling in for Director David Dombrowski, and I am here to present Mohican Youth Academy. It would be our second amendment with them. At this time, we only have one youth there, but this youth was placed fairly quickly, so we are asking for another $13,000 to be added to that contract for a maximum of $106,000 total.
What's the age of the youth?
This is a teenager, so that youth's a little bit older than. So Mohican Youth is a great place. These kiddos get to go and work through. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. If you know where Mohican is, it's out there at their facility. So I think that they are 17, and that is why they will be 4/4 of 2018 is when our original contract ended. But they may stay a little bit longer too. So.
Any other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-232. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Resolution number 18-233, in the matter of approving the child placement services contract and the addendum between the Delaware County Board of Commissioners, the Delaware County Department of Job and Family Services, and child placement providers in Mohican Youth Academy. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Again, Stephen Sikora with Job and Family Services. So this would be, since our contract the original contract was expiring on April 4th, we are actually asking to extend that to June, I do believe. It'll be a one-year contract, but I believe that child will turn 18 in June. So we are asking for additional funds to be placed there as well.
Are there any federal or state funds available to?
There are, sir. Yes, sir. We are expecting federal funds for this.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-232. Mrs. Lewis? Aye. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Resolution number 18-234, in the matter of approving a professional services agreement with Schooley Caldwell Associates Incorporated for architectural and engineering services for the renovation of the Delaware County Historic Courthouse. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Good morning, John Melvin, Director of Facilities. This contract is with Schooley Caldwell Associates for the design for the renovations for the historic courthouse. This contract takes it through conceptual design. They'll come in first, do the physical assessment of the building, verify the program needs for what is planned to go in there, and do the conceptual design, at which point we'll renegotiate we'll do a change order once the final negotiated scope is approved in conceptual design. The master plan kind of had a broad look at it. Obviously, we're looking at moving the law library, 5th District Court in there, so expanding those renovations. And that way they have a chance to fully assess the mechanicals in that building, see what needs to be fully involved in the scope.
Give us an idea of the timeline, because it was my thought we were going to be first quarter next year, but then I heard that may not be accurate.
We did get a timeline from Schooley Caldwell for the design work. And they're ready to mobilize as soon as this contract is approved. They're looking to hopefully go through those first stages, have the county review the conceptual design by June, then July starting construction documents, and doing August having 50% construction documents, having the construction documents done by October, putting out to bid in November, and construction starting in January. I do think that's a little bit of a conservative schedule, not knowing the full scope of the construction documents they have to develop for, depending on how intensely we renovate the building. Obviously, we'll work with them to fully expedite that, and then they project a 9 to 12 month construction period.
We're really talking third quarter of next year.
Yeah, again, conservative schedule, not knowing how intensively we're going to get in there and actually renovate. If we do a lot lighter renovations, not needing to do so much, able to reuse the existing elevator shaft, maybe expand it, will really determine that final schedule.
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify then, January start construction, we're talking about next January?
Next January,
Not a year from, okay.
Yep, next
Or
January.
earlier, based on your
Yeah, I mean, again,
Right,
I do
right.
think that is a conservative schedule.
Okay.
And that's have the bids awarded and ready to start the schedule.
Sure, okay, thank you.
I don't speak for myself, but I think the other commissioner would agree. We'd like to sooner rather than later. So
Yeah, we'll do, and on the county's part, we'll work with them as much as we can to help expedite this.
Yeah, a couple of things. I agree. It does seem like the timeline is slow. So whatever you can do to move them along, because I think we all are anxious to get in there and change this building and vacate the historic jail, which is seeing some real interest, which is very, very encouraging. So we can repurpose that building and save it, which is the way that everybody seems to be headed, which is great. So I'd like to avoid moving them twice. You and I talked about that, the law library and the Fifth Circuit.
Absolutely.
How much space do you think would be excess at this point, assuming we move the law library and the Fifth Circuit judge in there?
Into the historic courthouse?
Yeah.
It's going to be limited.
A whole lot of extra space after.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there'll be room for growth, but I mean, again, that's going to be the first task of the Schooley Caldwell is to look at that program needs, start doing the layouts and doing more in-depth how everything, the adjacencies work and how we can best utilize all the space over there.
Sure. Okay.
there's no one else down the road that you would see moving into that building. It's mainly.
Yeah, I would not
So it's
foresee.
really-
It's mainly
Apparently would have sufficient room.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's mainly going to be the growth of the commissioner's office and HR.
And then Judge Delaney would be moving over to the new courthouse?
No. Judge Delaney would be moving to the historic courthouse.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Historic.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-234. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Abstain.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-235, in the matter of approving the Third Amendment to the agreement between the Delaware County Sheriff's Office, the Delaware County Board of Commissioners, and Correctional Health Care Companies, Incorporated, for inmate health care services at the Delaware County Jail. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. Leslie Armstrong with Delaware County Sheriff's Office. This is a third amendment with CHC for the inmate health care. The amendment remains the same with the exception of the term. We did a extension from 2/28 through 6/30 to kind of have it lined up with our other main contract at the jail, which is our food contract.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, Leslie was good enough to answer some of my questions yesterday. This is budgeted.
Yes, sir.
We will do the bidding on these multiple contracts.
Correct.
At the end of June, or by the end of June.
Yes, we have a team in place right now for both contracts.
It looks like it's costing about $50,000 a month.
That's correct.
Okay, so, and that's for the on-site, in-house
Correct.
treatment. What is the, I don't want to jump ahead on the next one,
Oh, you're
but what do we pay on the next contract for outpatient?
For the one that Cassie will speak to?
Yeah.
It's $1,800 a month. Is that correct? Yeah.
Sorry, how much?
$1,800 a month.
Okay.
It's $21,000 for the year.
Is this the primary source of health care for the inmate?
Currently, yes.
Okay, that's all I got.
Any other questions or comments? Vote.
On motion 18-235, Mr. Merrill? Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 18-236, in the matter of approving the Third Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Board of Commissioners of Delaware County, the Sheriff's Office of Delaware County, and Recovery and Prevention Resources of Delaware and Morrow Counties, Incorporated, for inmate outpatient treatment services at the Delaware County Jail.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Lewis, second by Commissioner Benton. Discussion?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cassie Neff. I'm the program coordinator for the Delaware County Jail, and I'm housed, for the Delaware County Sheriff's Office. I'm housed in the jail. So the difference between this service and the one that Leslie presented is, health care. So it's that primary health care. The one that I'm presenting to you this morning is outpatient services specifically for men and women who suffer from alcohol and drug addiction. So out of the over 50 hours each week in the jail, we only contract for 10 hours of those. So we're really proud of that. And in addition, this year, we got a state grant with partnership of our Mental Health and Recovery Services Board to enhance those programs, if you will. So that will provide more in-reach services. It's a part-time person that will do reentry planning and a full-time peer designated to the jail. So we're really excited about that. And of course, as you know, with the employment of our program coordinator assistant, we really have a team in place, so we're excited to enhance these programs.
I'd just like to welcome you back, Cassie.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Vote.
Vote on motion 18-236. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution number 18-237, in the matter of approving development agreement among the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio, Evans Farm Land Development Company, LLC, and the Evans Farm NCA relating to county public infrastructure improvements.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion?
Bob Lamb, Economic Development Director for the county. Commissioners, before you is a request to approve the development agreement with Evans Farm LLC and Evans Farm NCA. Evans Farm is a planned, walkable community. This project includes both commercial and residential uses as well as institutional and public uses, including potential public safety locations and schools. The project will appeal to a wide variety of individuals with its housing options from millennials to empty nesters. The project overall contains approximately 1,200 acres, 3,000 residential units mixed between single-family, townhome, and multifamily, as well as over 500,000 square feet of commercial space. Staff has been working with the developer on this project for approximately 2 years. A special thank you is needed for Eric, who has worked diligently over the last few months to try to finalize the development agreement so that we could bring it forward today. Thank you to the developers for being able to work through a variety of different structures with us to be able to bring this forward. At this time, the county engineer's office, the county prosecutor's office, and staff have signed off on the agreement that's in front of you and would recommend that we move forward with this structure. The NCA has not approved this agreement at this point. They will be doing so, at least considering and possibly voting on its approval on March 22nd. I believe that's confirmed. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have at this time.
That was the question I had, whether the NCA had actually approved it at this point, but looks like
I think they've been hoping to meet on Tuesday, but we're unable to do so.
My understanding, though, that this could be considered later this month, as you indicated, and I just want to compliment all the work that's been done by a lot of people on this project, and I think it's an agreement that it's a win-win for everyone. I see we have people here from Evans Farms. I don't know if anyone wants to comment or not, but I give you that opportunity.
Good morning, Commissioners. Emmett Kelly with Frost Brown Todd, representing the developer and working with the NCA. I echo everything that Bob said. Appreciate everyone's hard work on this, cooperation, and we're happy to be to this point. And I know Dan and Tony both feel the same, and we will meet on March 22nd. We're trying to get it so that all the board members could be present, and we keep missing that opportunity, but we're going to do it on the 22nd. And we're ready to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commissioners?
No, I just like to say I'm glad it's to this point, and you know, it's a project I think everyone is behind. It's tricky, and that's what's I know has made it difficult to get it to this point where the agreement's been all signed off or ready to be signed off and structured properly. So anyway, again, congratulations and thanks to everyone who's worked on it.
And, you know, when you complimented Eric, he didn't even crack a smile. So, but Eric,
I told him it was coming.
Eric did a lot of work on this project, and he kept it moving. And I think we all appreciate that. And thank you very much, Eric.
Yeah, so did Bob and Chris Bauserman.
Exclude anyone.
A lot of people worked very hard on it. Thanks to all.
Yep.
With that, vote.
Motion 18-237. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
We're going to jump ahead to administrative reports.
The regular agenda.
We have no administrator this morning, so we'll
So do you
move on.
want to comment on his behalf?
I have no reports today.
Okay, with that, Commissioner Lewis?
Oh, let's see here.
We all attended Developmental Disabilities annual Lifetime of Giving Awards the other night, and it was really a wonderful gathering. A lot of people who such as outstanding self-advocate, outstanding community employer, outstanding community partner. Many people were honored that night, and very, very well deserved for the work that they do in developmental disabilities. And I attended also the NACO National Convention for County Commissioners legislative meeting in Washington last weekend, the Justice and Policy Committee specifically that I am on. And so one of the issues that we took up was evidently there are firefighter gear, I'll call them, that have to be retired after 10 years. It's a mandatory standard by a firefighter association that this happens. So one of the members of our committee actually has worked on this for 2 years, done a lot of research on it. And what sometimes happens, I guess, and it's more frequent than was obvious at first, is that the gear is just thrown away, whether it's been used or not. And so that has really given smaller fire departments especially a big financial burden. And so some firefighters have actually, because they couldn't afford to get the new gear, the old gear was thrown away, but they didn't have the proper new gear to fight fires, and that's, you just have to have it. So anyway, the group passed a resolution that goes to our national group saying that we favor doing away with this arbitrary standard. So we'll see. I'll keep you informed as to how that goes. That vote will be at the national convention.
The equipment doesn't degrade to some extent after 10 years?
That just depends on how much it's used. But if it's not used that often, then it doesn't degrade, by itself.
Okay.
So.
Anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner Benton.
Just, I guess, one other thing, other than the DD event, which was very well attended. It was a large crowd. Commissioner Merrill gave the closing remarks and did a great job. So again, it's a good organization doing good things. One legislative initiative kind of caught my eye that's coming forward, and I don't know how far along it is. At this point, I'll learn more today at Morpsey, but there's a proposal advanced by some county commissioners in the western side of the county, Allen County and some of the others over there, where the local government fund would go away and the responsibility for Board of Elections and indigent defense would go away. And the state would take over those roles and stop the local government fund reimbursement. It's an interesting idea, as the state does initiate and does require a whole lot of things for both indigent defense and the Board of Elections. Their state mandates that we do those things, and they provide all the rules and regulations, but the local government fund is not adequate to reimburse us for those operations. So simply on a financial perspective, you'd look at it and say, yeah, we do that tomorrow, because you'd save about half the cost, which is about $1.5 million. But there are a whole bunch of other issues that have to be considered before we would ever go forward with a plan like that. So anyway, I'll be looking into that and learning more about that and see if it's a realistic legislative initiative or one of those that's more symbolic than realistic. So we'll see.
Once if it's saving the county $1.5 million, it means costing the state $1.5 million. So that by itself, it becomes a negative for the state.
Yeah. So again, we got the Board of Elections equipment. That issue is kind of related, but it's being separately proposed to fund at a minimum level. It looks like is what the thinking is there. The Board of Election equipment. What the state is basically saying is we'll fund paper ballot machines, and if you want fancier electronic machines, you got to pay for it at the county level. So we'll see. Again, that's another one of the initiatives we'll study more and learn more about as time goes forward. That's all I got.
Yeah, the voting machines has become a real, irritant in the sense of the state has not been very supportive from our perspective as counties, at least. Right. But it's still under discussion, so we'll see how it ends up. The only, again, I'll just confirm what the other two commissioners have said. The lifetime of giving, I think one of the things in our county we should be very proud of is the number of people who really do quality work in behalf of all of our citizens. And as it was stated, I think by Commissioner Lewis, we had a great crowd that evening, much bigger than I would have anticipated. And it was an outstanding event. And again, congratulations to all the people acknowledged that evening for the work they've done. Morpsey has the policy meeting this afternoon at 1:30, and I will be attending the Health Department Advisory Council meeting tonight. With that, we need to wait till 10 o'clock for the hearing, so I will recess. And I think Commissioner Lewis is going to accuse herself, so
yes.
I will go ahead and let that be known, and won't really be any need for you to come back unless you want to.
Okay. No, I'm fine.
Okay, with that, we are in recess until 10 o'clock. Delaware County Board of Commissioners is back in session after the recess. It is now 10 o'clock. With that, proceed.
Resolution number 18-238, reconvening the public hearing for consideration of the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition filed by Mary Beth Maluk and others.
So moved.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-238. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis has recused herself. Resolution number 18-239, in the matter of approving for a specific occurrence a suspension of Rule 3, speaker registration, Rule 4, limitations, and Rule 7, public comment procedure from the rules governing public comment before the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded by me. Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 239. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Benton?
Aye.
With that, I'm going to kind of read to the kind of the rules of the road, so to speak, is how we will conduct this hearing. And so first of all, welcome to the first hearing for the consideration of the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition. There's a sign-in sheet that's circulating, so please be sure and sign it if you're here today for that in the part of this hearing. We'll hear a report from the county engineer and Soil and Water Conservation District. We will then take questions from the board if they have any. Then we will hear from all those in favor of the petition. We'll then hear from all those opposed to the petition. And prior to your giving testimony, you'll be asked to take an oath administered by me. We'll continue back and forth if new information comes up or additional people wish to speak. I'll take questions from the board. And after listening to testimony and the report of the engineer, the board will decide whether to grant the prayer of the petition or to dismiss the petition. The board considers the following in making their decision: whether the board hereby finds that the proposed improvement is necessary, that it will be conducive to the public welfare. The board also finds that it is reasonably certain that the cost of the proposed improvements will be less than the benefits received. If the board grants the prayer of the petition, the Delaware County Engineer will proceed with preparation of plans, reports, and individual schedules of assessments for the project. When plans are complete, a final hearing will be set, notification of the hearing will be given, and the board will consider the project at that time. And with that, I will turn it over to Brett.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. I will read the first hearing report into the record. First hearing report, Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage petition per ORC section 6131, February 22nd, 2018. This report has been prepared for the preliminary hearing on a drainage improvement petition filed by Mary Beth Maluk and others on September 1st, 2017. The general location and course of the requested improvements is quoted from the petition as follows. In Delaware County, Kingston Township, within the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed, and generally following but not limited to the course and termination of the existing improvements. The following is the nature of the work petition as quoted from the petition. To generally improve the drainage, both surface and subsurface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, and or altering the existing improvements as required and or creating new surface and subsurface drainage mains or laterals as requested by this petition. Petition process. This petition has been submitted according to Section 6131 of the Ohio Revised Code, or ORC, which authorizes the Board of Commissioners to act on behalf of benefited property owners to make drainage improvements. If the Board of Commissioners decides to proceed with a project, the costs related to the improvement and the development of plans, report, and schedules are assessed to the landowners in the watershed according to the benefit received to their watershed acreage. These special assessments will be added to the property taxes for each property and can be spread over a maximum of an 8-year period. Property owners may also choose to pay their assessment in a lump sum payment prior to placement on their property taxes. Additionally, the improvements will be placed on the Delaware County Drainage Maintenance Program in perpetuity per ORC Section 6137, and the annual maintenance assessment will appear on property tax statements as a special assessment in the same manner as the construction assessments. These annual maintenance assessments are generally in the range of 2 to 3% of the construction assessment. It should be noted that property owners are only assessed for those improvements that are located downstream from their properties. No property is assessed for improvements located upstream. The public agencies that own rights-of-way for public roads and other public lands are also assessed for both construction and maintenance costs in the same manner as private property owners. The decision to approve a petition project is a 3-step process. First, a viewing of the proposed improvement is conducted for the commissioners to familiarize themselves with the watershed and general conditions. The commissioners conducted the viewing for this project on November 20th, 2017. Next, a preliminary hearing is held to consider the initial feasibility of the proposal. It is this preliminary first hearing that is before us today. If the petition is approved, a final hearing will be conducted to further consider this petition. At that time, final details such as engineering plans and specifications, cost estimates, and a proposed schedule of assessments will be known. Existing conditions. The Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District and Delaware County Engineer's Office have made the following observations using on-site evaluation and a review of available aerial photography, topographic mapping, and soils mapping. The drainage system does not appear to be functioning at or near optimum capacity due to a lack of comprehensive maintenance and the generally deteriorated condition of the infrastructure. The subsurface drain system appears to have significant blockages in the system as observed by stagnant water in inspection ports along its course. This has led to sporadic blowouts along the course of the subsurface drain and a general absence of a functional subsurface drainage system in the upper reaches of the watershed. The absence of uniform surface grading has resulted in areas of surface ponding. These conditions are indicators of an overburdened and aged drainage infrastructure. While the existing drainage system still provides some degree of drainage benefit, it does not appear to function as a good and sufficient outlet. Estimate of cost, factors favorable, unfavorable, benefit versus cost. ORC Section 6131 requires the county engineer to state in a report factors favorable and unfavorable to a proposed project, estimate the cost of the project, and state an opinion as to whether the benefits of the project exceed the cost. The following information is presented for your consideration. Construction estimate. The proposed project would include the following basic elements: open channel restoration, surface drain shaping and grading, seeding and mulching of disturbed areas, subsurface drain installation, installation of a grade stabilization structure, private drive culvert installations, and clearing and snagging. Construction, $76,300. Drainage maintenance, ORC 6137, first year startup, 5% of the construction estimate, $3,815. Project administration, survey, and engineering, 15% of the construction estimate, $11,445. Total project estimate, $91,560. Notes. It is important to understand that the above estimates are preliminary and made in the absence of a current detailed topographic survey of the project area. Should the project fail to be approved at the final hearing, the benefiting landowners, as defined by ORC 6131, may still be responsible for the cost of project administration, survey, and engineering design. Assessments. If the project moves forward to the second hearing, the Ohio Revised Code instructs the county engineer to calculate the assessments to individual property owners based on the benefits received from the improvements for the various properties in the watershed. ORC 6131 states, quote, uplands that have been removed from their natural state by deforestation, cultivation, artificial drainage, urban development, or other man-made causes shall be considered as benefited by an improvement required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands. Benefits are further defined by the ORC as, quote, elimination or reduction of damage from flood, removal of water conditions that jeopardize public health, safety, and welfare, and increased value of land resulting from the improvement. Individual parcel assessments are not calculated for the preliminary hearing and are only calculated if the petition moves forward to a second or final hearing. Factors favorable and unfavorable. Factors favorable to the improvement. 1. Improved surface and subsurface drainage in the watershed. 2. Improved outlet for subsurface drainage components of household sewage treatment systems and for residential drainage systems. 3. Reduction of future deterioration of surface and subsurface drainage infrastructure. 4. Annual inspections and maintenance of the improvement in perpetuity. Factors unfavorable to the improvement. 1. Temporary land use disruption during construction. 2. Cost of construction and maintenance may be a burden to some landowners. 3. Removal of existing trees and brush in the improvement area. Benefits versus cost. Assessments for property within the watershed are calculated based on the benefits derived. A publication by the Ohio State University Extension titled Returns to Farm Drainage details several studies conducted by the Ohio State researchers on the effects of drainage on crop yields. The studies show that fields with good drainage will produce higher yields than fields that have poor drainage. A recently completed 25-year study showed that subsurface drainage increased corn yields by 24% to 39% and increased soybean yields by 13% to 46%. The same study also analyzed the return on investment for installing subsurface drainage in a field. It found that for corn, $4 is returned for every $1 invested, and for soybeans, $3 is returned for every $1 invested. To state it generally, the benefits of drainage will equal the increased yield multiplied by the market price. The increased value or benefit for residential properties is much more subjective and difficult to quantify. For residential properties, the lack of an adequate drainage outlet can negatively impact the condition of household sewage treatment systems, potentially limiting the value of the home for resale. Should the existing system fail, the cost to perform repairs or construct an alternate sewage treatment system can range from the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. It would be reasonable to consider the cost of environmental degradation due to residential sewage treatment systems that may not be functioning properly. Other benefits that are commonly perceived as a result of drainage improvements focus on quality of life and positive neighborhood perceptions. Communities that have planned and maintained stormwater drainage infrastructures generally have higher resale values than those communities that are known to have a history of drainage problems or flooding. Conclusions. Based on all of the information gathered and generated for this project, I believe that this project is technically feasible and would adequately serve the project area's drainage needs. However, the testimony brought to the board by the landowners as to whether the benefits of this project exceed the costs should be given significant consideration in the decision to move forward with this project. Should the current petition be approved to proceed to a final hearing, the petition bond will be returned and detailed plans, specifications, estimated costs, and a schedule of assessments would be prepared. Additionally, a benefits versus cost analysis will also be performed to further determine the feasibility of advancing this proposed project.
Okay, with that, any questions from the board? Mr. Benton?
Yeah, just a quick question, Brett. How many acres are in this watershed, roughly?
The watershed is, I believe, roughly 40. I can determine that. Hold on a second.
And kind of a follow-up question, it looks like probably less than half of that is agricultural. Correct. Maybe 30 to 40%, just looking at the map.
That's fine.
No problem. Mary Beth, maybe how many acres is your parcel? Do you know?
Mine's 18.
18.
Neighbors either side are 20-something, so it's 60 right there.
Yeah.
227?
Yeah. Okay.
We have another Kingston watershed that's about 40, so I think that's...
Yeah. That's all I've got. Questions for Brett. So.
I have one question, and I probably could have asked this before the meeting, and I apologize for not doing that. When you talk about the increased return, we talk about it found that for corn, I'm going to use an example, $4 return for every dollar invested. Is that annually, or is that over, what time frame is that over?
That would be... I believe that would be annual, the study said.
Okay.
But I would have to go back.
You said I believe, so would you clarify that at some future point for us?
Yes, sir.
I've often wondered about that, but I've never...
Yeah.
I assumed it was annual, but I didn't want to be...
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, proper drainage has a huge impact on yields.
But you're still looking for...
145.6 acres.
145?
Approximately.
Yes.
Thanks.
145.6 sounds pretty definite, doesn't it?
As always, that watershed for the first hearing, we consider that preliminary because it is not. It is based on completely on office data, not ground truth. If the project's approved to move forward to the second hearing, that is something that we will take a closer look at and refine if necessary.
Any other questions? And I have none, so let's proceed to hearing from those who are in favor of the petition. So if anyone would like to speak in support of the petition, please come and identify yourself, and then I'll swear you in.
Thank you.
Mary Beth Melick at 8908 Kilbourne Road.
Do you, raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much for your time, Commissioners. For your benefit, as well as some of those who may be here to oppose the petition, I want everybody to know that this was not my first choice. I bought this ground in 1989. It had been a farm. It did not have the water problems that have arisen in the last 5 years. And they have been insurmountable in this last 5 years. They come in the spring, they don't dry up till July or August, and they come back in October, and it renders most of my property unusable. Also, I think that's important to know for the 9 properties that are on my side of Kilbourne Road, the south side, we all have deed restrictions with our deeds, and a copy of them is in the binder that I gave you, that we allow or grant everybody around us an easement for the water to traverse across their ground. So when I built my house, that's what I did. I had a contractor, you may have heard of him, Dan Whited, and he came out and he did this plan where we built this pond, and it took the water from the Dobbs property, they didn't live there at the time, and it took it in front of my house and behind my house into the pond and then out to the fields to the east. In the last 5 years, that's just, I don't know what's happened, but it's not working. It backs up my sump pumps because the water in the pond gets too high. It backs up my septic. I had no functioning toilets for the last 2 weekends. And there are 2 pictures in the binder that I flagged of the water that is lying over my septic field. So when we talk about health issues, there is a grave health issue if we don't fix this water, because I'm sure my septic isn't the only one that's being impacted. 613104, again, as the soil and water people have pointed out, allows these types of drainage improvements if the costs don't exceed the benefits. And the benefits here are improvement to the ground because of the use that we will get from the ground that we don't have now, improvement and protection of our septic systems, which are not good to have floating water all over the neighborhood. And the binder that I've given you has shown, it's a compilation of pictures of my property under 2 different scenarios, in the spring and in the November that you had the visual, the drive-by. That water that you saw in November was still here 2 weeks ago when we got the last bunch of water. So it just stands there. When Dan Whited came out, actually, when I built the house, there were blowouts back then in the property to the east of mine. So this has been an ongoing problem, and I think with all the construction, everybody putting in their houses and their ponds, it has just made matters even worse. The last 2 pictures, there's a picture of the Sharon Rush's property across the street on the north side that is agricultural, and there's also a picture of the Condos driveway after the November rains, and they're here to talk as well. So again, thank you very much. If you don't have any questions, I will sit back down.
Do you have any questions?
What do you think triggered it from 5 years ago? Is there any construction event or road event or anything that...
New houses going in, new ponds going in. I think also if there were problems to begin with 20 years ago, they've just increased as the water plugged up and made more blowouts. And I don't know if it's the weather. It's hard to say. But I know it's like the last 5-6 years that, and again, this was not my first choice. I called a contractor to come out and look at this thinking I could tile it to the creek. And very honorable contractor turned down the work. He said, that's not going to work. You need to talk to Soil and Water. And so Soil and Water came out and explained it has to go east to the creek across everybody else's front yard or under their driveways and under their yard. I just can't take it to the ditch because the ditch is non-functioning. And why it's not functioning, that I don't know.
I have no questions at this time. Anyone else who wants to speak in favor of the petition?
Good morning. Angela Dustheimer, 9050 Kilbourne Road.
Raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Proceed, Angela.
Again, excuse me. You guys saw this on the site visit. I don't think there's an argument whether or not this work needs done. It's a matter of whether or not the commissioners need to accept the petition and take ownership.
And the location of your property in relationship to the property
we are east and downstream of Mary Beth.
Number 17.
Yes, and we did sign the petition. But again, proceeding, whether or not you guys need to approve this and make it a uniform drainage system again. Not all the property owners here understand what a drainage system, the old field tile systems, were meant to do and what subsurface does, or the subsurface drainage is functioning for. I don't think everybody's in agreement that the work needs done. And to bring everybody together would be difficult to do on our own. So if the county accepts this, then it'll be one uniform petition or one uniform drainage system, and we all take ownership in it. And then if everyone fixed their own problem, it wouldn't be a cohesive watershed. I know when we had a public hearing at the township hall, there were people present then that were like, well, we did our own work. Everybody else needs to fix their own problems. It won't work properly if that happens. And then everybody might be civilly suing each other because, well, you did this and now I have water on my property. That could be costly to each individual landowner. The county road divides the watershed. If it's not fixed properly, that road may begin to deteriorate. All the infrastructure, the ditches alongside that road, they won't function. Now the county would have to come in and fix all of that down the road instead of fixing it now. Being able to have soil and water come in and bring in the experts would probably be more cost effective. And then again, the property tax assessments, we would ultimately be reimbursing the general fund in the end. Any questions?
Do you have a problem water standing in your?
Yes.
As the prior testimony?
Yes.
Mr. Van, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no other questions.
County engineer representative here. I have a question for you.
Brett Bergerford, Delaware County Engineer's Office.
Do I need to swear him in if I ask him questions since he's...
If you're asking him a question, that's going to constitute testimony outside of the first hearing report, yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and swear you in. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
If we had testimony, or the question came up that it could affect the road deterioration of the county roads over time. Do you have any comment to add to that? Is that, in your opinion, a possibility or not?
Drainage is a part of any roadway system. The roadway ditches are providing drainage for the roadway. In time, pavement deterioration could potentially be accelerated as compared to just normal general deterioration. We haven't established a baseline for Kilbourne Road in this area. But however, in a general sense, I mean, drainage is important for roadways just as any other infrastructure is for any other man-made dwelling or facility. So the roadway going through as part of the watershed, we would be assessed our essentially fair share for the roadway because the roadway does drain within the watershed. However, we're subject to the portion that's within the road right away currently. And so I know there was reference about the dividing line and the culverts that extend underneath the roadway, and we would be responsible for that component of the watershed.
No.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of the petition? Please.
Hi, Sandra Carroll, 8966 Kilbourne Road. And just for Sandra, for reference, I'm 18 up there on the map.
Okay.
Let me swear you in.
Yes.
Raise your hand, please. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
Okay. I'm not as polished as everybody else here has been. Basically, on my property, I, for one, have the culvert in our area. I have a lot of water that comes over from the farmland across the street, and what I have a lot of is all that water backs up onto mine. It can't empty out fast enough. My drainage pond behind the house fills up rapidly. I have what I affectionately call the moat that forms from the front of my property where the culvert is, goes around the west side of the house, and I literally have looks like a little mini moat that travels the whole thing. In heavy rains, it gets quite full. I also have water backing up, not just from there, but from my pond to my neighbor's pond, and it covers my other neighbor's driveway as it does so. The other thing I'm running into is because of the amount of water and the proximity to my home, I've been having accelerated damage to my home. So where a lot of places where the basement meets the top half where the wood is, the wood has been deteriorating probably faster than it normally would. I bought the home in 2009 from the original owner who had it built in 99. I've had to do basement repairs due to that. I'm not going to say it's in tens of thousands of dollars, but it is thousands of dollars repairs already to replace basement windows that have deteriorated with the wood frames. They've been replaced with mortar and glass block windows to help prevent that. But I also believe the baseboard near the bottom of the house where the basement meets is deteriorating as well. It's not bad at this point, but I think it's a final source of my basement issues. I don't have any problems that I've noticed with my personal leach field septic system as far as from the water. That the northeast side of my property tends to be the driest. The south and to the east of mine, which is closer to Mary Beth, is soaked. I unfortunately don't have any pictures to show you other than what would be on my phone. But this last rain we had, it was just inundated with water.
Okay, which one's your property?
18.
18.
Yeah, and Mary Beth would be 7, I believe, right?
How long does it take for your moat to dissipate? Typically,
depends. Here during the wintertime, it's taking, if we don't get any rain, anywhere from a week to 3 weeks before it will go down. Summertime it does go down quicker. I think because just drier, the ground can absorb it quicker. That's my opinion. The water I have on my property now has been there pretty much most of this year. It's gone up and down, but it's never completely gone away.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you. Anyone else to speak in favor of the petition?
Sure.
Tammy Kondoff, 88.
Sorry, your name again?
Tammy Kondoff. I am number 5 on the map up there.
Okay, let me swear you in. Thank you, Tammy. Raise your hand, please. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Proceed.
Our address is 8839 Kilbourne Road, and as I said, we are number 5 on the map up there. We're relatively new owners. We've been there about a year and 3 or 4 months. When we purchased the property, it was in August of 2016, very dry, end of summer. We had no idea what we were getting into. But our 5 acres are virtually unusable most of the year. The pictures that I gave you are the view from my front office window looking out at my front yard. And most of the winter, beginning with whatever first rain or snow we have, that's what our yard looks like. We also have standing water around other areas of the property that is over our leach field. We haven't had any failures yet, but I do worry about that. Our sump pump runs pretty much nonstop. We have 2 sump pumps for the basement. They're running all the time. I know the basement flooded with the prior owners. We haven't had that problem yet, but that's really a big concern of mine. We have had Delaware Soil and Water come out to see if, what we could do to fix the problem, and we have been informed that it's nothing that we can take on ourselves. So unless something's done, a joint effort by everyone, and it's approved, we virtually have no recourse. There's nothing we as homeowners can do to fix the problem. So it's a real issue for us. It's a real problem with resale, because had we known that the property was going to be flooded most of the time, and it really never dries out. It's always, squishy when you walk, even if there's not standing water. But had we known that that was the condition of the property, we never would have bought it. So I'm definitely in support. And not to mention, I see what happens with my neighbors when it rains. They all, we all have problems. So.
Neighbors, the ones that have already testified, or neighbors around you where you're located?
Some that have already testified and some that have not. For example, the farmland that is adjacent to us, I think it's 21, that is virtually a pond over there. I mean, it floods and it backs up and it stays there. So I know that farmland there, that front portion, probably the front quarter of it, is unusable. And then what happens is my neighbor, the number 16, his driveway gets it from both sides since it backs up on 21. And then his driveway will flood over so that there's standing water and it's difficult to drive through. So I just, I see Mary Beth's yard. Something needs to be done. And the problem is only getting worse. We've seen it get worse in the year and few months that we've lived there. I don't know why, but it has been. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking in favor of the petition? Now let's transition to those who are opposed to the petition. Anyone here would like to speak in opposition to the petition? Please come forward. Your name?
My name is Fred Talbert. 8776 would be the highest one there. Is it 19 or 15? I can't read.
Okay.
My glasses suck. I'm sorry.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. So I'm pretty neutral on this. I think water is a problem, and it should be dealt with. I just think where I sit, from what has been proposed, the line was going to kind of cut through here. It wasn't going to come more towards my property, so it wasn't going to do me much good. We've built a pond just behind our house, and we've moved the dirt up higher in that hill to make our pasture drier. In just the last 6 months or so, it's not been that long. So we're, our pasture for our horse will be there. We've planted grass. Anyways, but a lot of the front of that house goes west. So that my driveway, if you can see it, is there. And so the front part of the house, I think, goes west. My driveway, there's no ditch across my front yard, right where my driveway is, no culvert. It just so I'm kind of at the top of the hill and dividing down. So I was concerned. So there's 2 swamps. There's one at the beginning of the woods, and there's one farther deeper in the woods. They've always had water. I'm not sure we can drain those anyways because you're putting culvert through woods, and it's not really something I like. I'm a reptile amphibian enthusiast. The times with my son going back there and catching salamanders and frogs and turning them loose. It's all so. It's there's a lot of wildlife back there that I really don't want to affect. So I'm not sure I want to drain that anyways. So I'm fine with that. That's how I feel. I just kind of if it's going across the front there, how much does it affect me? For me having 18 acres on the top, me getting a lot of the cost. So what I would appreciate is if the engineer comes and, is able to tell me exactly how much mine is going that way, and I don't mind paying for that. But most of my water is always sat. My house is, I probably have lived there the longest, along with Mary Beth. I think we were some of the first 2 houses there. So if you had any questions about how the water has improved or not improved, I mean, maybe we could help. I think it has been dry for quite a while, and it has gotten worse, but we've also had lots of nasty rain here in the last year or so. It's not flowing through, I guess. But so as I said, I'm pretty neutral, but I also, don't sure how much it's going to affect me.
Do you have flooding in your yard or on your driveway or anything?
Where we built the pond, we had built up there. Everything drained down there. But that was because we dug dirt out and put it around our pole barn, knowing that someday we were going to put a pond there. So as stated, like in July, usually July for 3 or 4 months, it always had been wet there, and then it dried up and you could get farther back in. We have put dirt in, so we have causeways through the swampy areas now. So, I mean, it was just kind of what we did with the pond dirt. So.
Mr. Talbot, I don't want to make sure I understood, because it's always possible that I misunderstood. Did you say you brought in dirt to solve part of your problem?
No, the pond dirt that we dug out, we moved that. We dug a 12-foot pond. It was a 3/4 acre pond just 6 months ago or so. And that dirt we all just kind of piled back, but we shaped it so it would all drain back into where our pond is.
My question obviously was that affecting people downstream?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I've got video of the neighbor's property draining into mine. Of course, when it all filled up, then we're back to where we were every year, where it's stagnant until we had some nice rain here this past year. So.
Any other testimony?
No.
Thank you. Brett got up, so I'm assuming he has something to say. Is that accurate?
Brett Bacon, Delaware Soil and Water again. Just a couple points of clarification related to the testimony. The comment about the road ditch possibly draining to the west, that does speak to my statement of the watershed being preliminary, and I think it's important to maybe illustrate how that watershed line is developed for this stage of the process. We utilize data generated by the state, which is remote sensed photography that establishes ground elevation based on laser, using lasers bounced off the ground. That process is good. It's we find it to be very, very accurate, but it is not ground truth. And certainly the 3 things that we have found will affect that process are roads, trees, and railroads. So when we refine a watershed, those are the areas certainly that we definitely take a closer look at, and possibly certainly it sounds like may need to make changes to that line in the preparation for a final hearing should the process move to that point.
I'll make a statement. To the degree his property would flow west, it would not be part of this.
Correct. And we have had parcels that are included in the process at the first hearing that when we have done that refinement of the watershed, we have decided that they are not involved in the project. They're not even notified that the second hearing is happening because we've just...
Some portion of their property.
Correct. Yeah, it may go down, it may go out entirely, it may increase. So that is certainly something that we do take a look at in the design process. I think the other thing that it's important to note, though, is that the improvements are only designed to the parcels that sign the petition. So by signing a petition, or signing the petition, the parcel is requesting that the improvements be designed to them. If a parcel does not design a petition, such as parcel number 19, we wouldn't bring tile up through their woods. we would only go to the furthest upstream parcel that signs the petition. And that's by the close of this hearing, as I understand the statute.
But the theory is, to the degree that their water is creating a problem downstream, they have responsibility.
They have a financial stake in the project, yes.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition to the petition?
Janice Lovett.
Jan?
Janice Lovett, L-O-V-A-T.
And your property number?
9160 Kilbourne, it's number 14.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Proceed.
I am very empathetic to all of the problems, and I can understand why they want to do this. My only concern, it really is the cost assessment and the annual maintenance fee that would be required if this goes through. As you can see on my property, it's probably the last one where all the water goes. I don't have any problems. I get flooding and stuff, but it's mostly pasture where all the water is, and I've managed to work around all that, so it doesn't really affect my house or residential or sewage or any of that kind of stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, I have no problem with more water coming in. It just goes to the little creek there. It does overflow. We have wetlands there, so it gets wet, so it's fine with me, and we just adjust, and that's okay. So I have no problems with more drainage coming in and everything else. I just am more concerned with the cost and the annual costs as well, too.
So you don't really have flooding on a regular basis?
We have, no, not in our residential area. We do have flooding in the pastures. We do have flooding. There's an open ditch that overflows. Within a 24-hour period, it goes down, so it's fine. The little creek, the Little Walnut Creek, overflows its banks. It gets to and then it just goes all over the place. But it eventually, like I think the last one, it came within even 12 hours, it goes down. So from my property, it doesn't really affect it. So.
Anything else to add?
Nope.
Fred, I do have another question. Thank you, Ms. Lovett. Because the location of her property, she would be contributing less to the water issue anyway. I think that gets factored into the equation, doesn't it?
Yes. One of the factors that we use in determining that schedule of assessments is the percentage use of the project, the actual improved part of the project. And that would speak to the amount of constructed project that water leaving a parcel would flow through. Obviously, parcel number 14 would be on the bottom end of a project. Their percentage use, typically at that placement in a watershed is going to be on the, maybe the 5 to 10% use at most. So their relative benefit to the constructed part of the project is going to be less. And that would speak to the comment in the report about only paying for the part of the improvement that your property actually uses. You don't pay for improvements that are located upstream of your parcel.
Okay. Please come back up here.
In view of all that, if no actual improvement is made on my property, then I wouldn't be assessed anything? Is that how it works?
I think it's too early to, I'm going to comment, you correct me. I think it's too early to say that because that's part of between now and the second hearing, that evaluation will occur. That's when that would be determined. So, but based on the location, based on what I heard, that's certainly a factor that will be considered, I believe. Correct me, Brett, if I say anything incorrect.
No, you're correct in what you say. The percentage use is just one factor that goes into determining the assessments. We also look at the acres benefited and the land use, but I agree with you that it is too early in the process to make that statement kind of as a blanket statement.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else speaking in opposition to the petition, please come forward.
My name is Linda Dodds, and I'm at 8824 Kilbourne Road. And I want to go on record. I'm not for or against. I just have a bunch of questions.
Well, first of all, which is your property?
Number 8.
You're going to swear her in.
Okay. So, and it was Liz?
Linda.
And I apologize. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Proceed.
I have a question because my property is the one that goes into Fred's property, which is number 19. It actually drains. We have pictures of it actually draining into his pond. So I believe that is west as well. But my major question is, when we bought the property 12 years ago, we actually had either soil and water or the engineers come out because we knew there was a water problem at that point in time. And we asked them what we could do, and again, they said we were the center of the bowl, so it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't drain either way. So I'm curious as to how do we get it to drain if that's the case? Because my property, the little gray speck up there is my house or my driveway, and right behind that there's a really dark area. That is the part that's always wet that drains into Talbert's pond. And then on back in the woods, honestly, I've been back there several times, but it is always wet. So if this is going to drain, how is it going to drain? I guess, I'd like to know that. How much is it going to affect, and which direction will it drain? When we built our property, we were told that the water table was 12 inches. They hit water at 12 inches, which when you're putting in a basement, that's not good. So we did a lot of extra stuff for our basement. We've never had trouble. We have gone through 4 water pumps, sump pumps in 12 years. But like another one said, it does constantly run. So I would like to see it dry property. I would love to be able to use all of my acreage. But again, is the cost going to outweigh? Because I'm not sure how much this project will actually affect our property. And that's basically what I would like to know, is how does it affect us? So that's my questions.
Basically, you're not for or against. You just want more information.
Yeah, I just want a lot more information.
I would encourage you maybe to call Soil and Water after this meeting and ask those questions. I'm not sure it's really germane to the testimony here, but I would encourage you to do that. You may get answers that will help you understand that better.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any other comments? No other comments. Anyone else in opposition to the petition? Okay. Commissioner Benton, do you have any comments you want to make at this point?
I think it's pretty obvious to me. We do a lot of these, and this one seems to be one where there really is a problem.
Right now, I think we need to ask questions. We'll have to close the hearing to go down that road.
I don't have any other questions at this point.
I have no other questions. Other than Brett, is there anything, I always like to ask us at the end, is there anything else you'd like to add based on what you've heard that may clarify points that have been made, or do you think it's been pretty well?
I think the testimony bears out what my observations preliminarily are in the watershed. I can't think of anything that I would add to either sets of testimony.
If there's nothing else, without objection, let's close the hearing.
Resolution number 18-2.
I just have a few questions.
Questions or testimony that...
Just questions, strictly questions on the process and the financing?
Okay. Go ahead and step up here. We may refer you to Soil and Water, but I want to make sure that we don't eliminate something that might be important to the process. But if it's questions about process or procedure, I may just refer you to Soil and Water. But go ahead.
My name is John Blummel. I'm property number 11.
Okay.
I would like to ask just how much of this process has already been spent that we will be assessed for, if at all, this time. There's been obviously some work done.
If we were to make a decision today not to move forward, I don't believe there is any cost. If we move to the second, then there would be a cost if we decided not to do it. Eric's going to comment or clarify that.
Eric Hostetler, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney. If the board decides to deny the petition today, a bond was filed accompanying the petition, and any expenses would be paid out of that bond. If you do move forward to the second hearing, and it were denied at the second hearing, obviously there would be a lot more of additional costs involved at that point, and those could be, but wouldn't be required to be assessed back to the property owners. I'm not sure how much has been expended already, but again, that would come out of the bond. It would not be assessed to the individual property owners.
The bond would be is the bond if it's placed by the petitioner.
Correct.
Which is part of my question. How the bond itself, is that figured into your administration costs?
No, the bond covers the costs for mailings and for the costs of the county engineer and soil and water. It's a $500 bond.
And then, so interest rate and all that carrying cost overhead, is that figured into the projected cost that the engineer put together?
You're talking about the cost for the project if the project moved forward.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are different ways. We may or may not have to bond. Depends on if everybody were to pay their assessments up front, then there wouldn't necessarily need to be any bonding. If you're talking about interest rate on the bonds, that's kind of hard to say because right now we're at the first hearing. The second hearing could be anywhere from 2 to 3 years from now, depending on how long it took to put plans together. So it's kind of hard to speculate about what those costs would be.
Finance the project?
Not necessarily.
So this is a fairly reasonable cost for what could eventually end up being the total project.
You're referring to the estimate in the report?
Yeah, 91,000, I believe.
I can't speak to that. If the individuals who prepared the report want to discuss the basis for their estimate, they can do that.
Brad, why don't you come up? I think sometimes people see a number like that and they assume, and it's really when you do the math and you get down to the numbers, it's much different than what that number looks like.
Certainly it could be. We have a pretty good history of our first hearing estimates being at least in the ballpark of what we end up at a final hearing. But I think it's important to note that first hearing estimate is developed strictly by looking at the amount of acreage that's draining through the area and assuming a minimal grade for tile size, assuming basically the worst case scenario for conditions, because I think we would be irresponsible to assume the best case not having been out there or investigated it properly. Certainly when we get out, if we choose to move forward, if the board chooses to move forward, we start our survey, we start our engineering design. We may find we have more grade. We may find the watershed is not as big as we thought, and certainly that estimate could go down. We may find that there are conditions that we didn't anticipate just by the simple fact of not being able to do that detailed on-site investigation, and the cost may go up. That estimate is our best guess at this time, given what we know of the area.
Thank you. With that, without objection, read the resolution.
Resolution number 18-240, in the matter of closing the public hearing for consideration of the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition filed by Mary Beth Maluk and others.
So moved.
Second. Vote.
Vote on motion 18-240. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye. With that, Commissioner Benton, do you...
well, that closes the hearing.
Right.
And now we're at a decision point whether we go forward or not.
Which resolution to read, the favor or opposed?
Right. I do think it really is one of those situations where there really is a problem here, and I think it does merit proceeding with the preparation of the plans, report, and schedule for this watershed. So I move to approve the
read the prayer of the petition.
Yeah, read the prayer of the petition.
Resolution number 18-241, in the matter of granting the prayer petition and directing the Delaware County Engineer to proceed with preparation of plans, reports, and schedules for the Kingston Township number 2017-1 watershed drainage improvement petition.
I move that.
I'll second it. Discussion. Do you have any additional comments you want to make?
No, not really.
I'd just like to add, these are always sometimes both sides. A lot of times they come in, everybody's in agreement. Sometimes we have differences, but there's no question in my mind that it meets the criteria. The board considers the following. I'll just restate that: the proposed improvement is necessary. I feel like that was accomplished today. That will be conducive to the public welfare, and the board also finds it reasonably certain that the cost of proposed improvement will be less than the benefit. My view, from what I've heard today, there's no question about it meets that criteria. And from my personal viewing of the property back in November and what the testimony and evidence I've seen today confirms that. So I'm supportive of the granting the petition. And anything you'd like to add? With that, vote.
Vote on motion 18-241. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye. With that, first of all, thank you for being part of this process. It's very important. And if there's no other business to bring before us, we are adjourned.
Executive session.
I asked 5 minutes before we started.